If you're fascinated by the power of spiritual prayer, prepare to uncover the secret that sustained 50 years of extraordinary miracles. Warning: millions of people recite prayers without experiencing the same divine protection because they overlook three crucial elements practiced daily by Padre Pío. And here's the critical insight. You might be making the exact same oversight right now. Comment "Protect me" to discover the transformative practice that turned a humble Italian friar into one of the most remarkable saints in modern history. Most people know Padre Pío for the stigmata, the healing miracles, the extraordinary stories that still circulate today. But few know what really sustained all that supernatural power. And this is where millions go wrong. They think it's enough to pray any prayer, at any time, in any way. But Padre Pío followed a precise structure, a specific morning practice that he repeated every day without exception. And when you discover this structure, you finally understand why his prayers generated miracles, while so many others went unanswered. But before revealing this sacred prayer, you need to understand who this man was. This isn't just another saint's story. It's the biography of someone whom the Catholic Church officially validated as bearing authentic supernatural powers. And that makes all the difference. Padre Pío was born on May 25, 1887, in a small Italian town. He died on September 23, 1968, after 81 years of a life that defied all medical and scientific explanations of the time. He was a Capuchin friar who spent most of his life in San Giovanni Rotondo, a place that became a pilgrimage destination for millions of people around the world. Imagine the scene: a small convent in a southern Italian village. Every day, hundreds of people line up from dawn. Some traveled for entire days. Others crossed Europe. Everyone wants the same thing: to be in the presence of that humble friar who bleeds from his hands and feet. Because something different happens when you approach Padre Pío, something the Church had to investigate for decades before officially declaring it. And what really sets Padre Pío apart from other devout religious figures? The Church's official validation. On May 2, 1999, he was beatified. And just 3 years later, on June 16, 2002, Pope John Paul II officially canonized him as a saint before 300,000 people gathered at the Vatican. 300,000 witnesses to a ceremony that represents the highest validation the Catholic Church can grant. Think about it. The Church doesn't canonize people lightly. There's a rigorous investigative process that analyzes every aspect of the candidate's life, every reported miracle, every testimony. Padre Pío passed through this process with honors. His liturgical feast is celebrated every September 23rd, the date of his death. This means the Church officially recognizes that man had access to authentic divine power. And what was the miracle that undeniably marked his life? The stigmata of Christ. In September 1918, Padre Pío received the stigmata on his hands and feet. He began to bleed, literally, from the same places where Christ was crucified. And this didn't last days. It didn't last months. It lasted 50 years. 50 years of open wounds, of bleeding during masses, of a phenomenon that medicine couldn't explain. Think of it as a living clock. While most wounds heal in weeks, these remained open for half a century, as if time itself refused to close them, as if each day were a new witness to Calvary. Professor Amico Bignami, an atheist doctor and renowned scientist of the time, personally examined Padre Pío. He investigated the wounds, looked for signs of fraud, tried to find a natural explanation. And you know what he concluded? That there was no medical explanation. None. The stigmata were real, deep, and bled profusely during mass celebrations. Padre Pío needed cloths to contain the blood that flowed from his hands and feet. Imagine the scene. A man of faith before the altar, celebrating Christ's sacrifice, while his own body physically relives that suffering. This isn't just symbolism. It's documented reality, witnessed by thousands of people, validated by skeptical doctors, and finally recognized by the Church as a genuine miracle. But here's the detail most people ignore. At the moment of Padre Pio's death, the stigmata disappeared completely. No scars remained, no marks remained. The wounds that bled for 50 years closed without leaving any trace. The doctors who examined the body were perplexed. How do such deep and lasting wounds simply disappear? There's no natural explanation. It's further proof that what he lived through wasn't of this world. Now let's continue with an essential revelation. The true miracle wasn't just the stigmata. It was how he sustained 50 years of pain without giving up. And this capacity came from something specific that he practiced every day. 3 pillars that set Padre Pio apart from any other religious figure of the time. But before revealing these 3 pillars, let me tell you about Maria, a 53-year-old pilgrim from Naples who visited San Giovanni Rotondo in 1952. She had a terminal illness. Doctors gave her 3 months to live. She stood in line for hours to confess with Padre Pio, and when her turn finally came, the friar didn't even look at her face. He simply said, "You will live, but you must do what I do every day." Maria lived another 37 years, and when asked what changed, she always said the same thing. "I learned the 3 pillars he never broke." First pillar, radical discipline. He slept only 2 hours a night. 2. While the world rested, Padre Pio was in prayer, 19 hours daily of uninterrupted spiritual service. This man literally transformed his life into a living sacrifice. Second pillar, precise structure. It wasn't chaotic devotion. Padre Pio followed a rigorous spiritual routine that always began the same way. At dawn, the Lauds of the Divine Office. Afterward, the central prayer you're about to discover. And throughout the day, specific practices he never abandoned. Third pillar, specific prayers. And here's the secret millions ignore. Padre Pio didn't pray generic prayers. He had 3 non-negotiable prayers. Stay with me, Lord, right after communion, the Novena to the Sacred Heart of Jesus for all intentions, and a secret morning prayer that sustained everything else. And all of this wasn't just mechanical ritual. It was the fuel that sustained 50 years of stigmata. It was the foundation that allowed him to continue serving, healing, guiding, despite constant physical pain. Padre Pio understood a truth many of us forget. Spiritual power requires daily spiritual discipline. Think about how many people today seek spiritual transformation, divine protection, miracles in their lives, but aren't willing to dedicate even 15 minutes of true prayer per day. Padre Pio slept 2 hours and prayed 19. He didn't just talk about faith. He lived it so radically that his own body became living testimony of the supernatural. And here's the part the church officially validated. All of this worked. The miracles were real. The healings were documented. The conversions were countless. Padre Pio wasn't a charlatan. He wasn't a religious showman. He was a man who had direct access to divine power. And the church recognized this through the canonization process that culminated in 2002. Today, in 2025, Padre Pio continues to be one of the world's most beloved and venerated saints. His tomb in San Giovanni Rotondo receives millions of pilgrims every year. People from all continents, from all traditions, seek his intercession. Why? Because he proved that holiness isn't an abstract concept. It's a concrete, verifiable reality that transforms lives. Now let's get to the crucial point. His sanctification wasn't solely about suffering or the stigmata. It was about the daily discipline of prayer, a total, methodical, and unwavering surrender. At the heart of this discipline was a morning prayer he never missed in his 81 years of life. Do you want to know what this morning prayer is? The exact words that Padre Pio pronounced before anything else, and that sustained his 19 hours of spiritual service. Here's the critical error most people make. They believe merely repeating words is sufficient. They copy the prayer, recite it mechanically, and expect miraculous results. When nothing happens, they're left confused. The reason? They overlook the method. Padre Pio didn't pray haphazardly. He followed a precise ritual with intentional timing, posture, and purpose. Without these 3 critical elements, prayer becomes mere words, devoid of true power. It's like having the right key, but not knowing which lock to use it in. You have the instrument but not the method. And the method is what transforms words into miracles. The prayer that Padre Pío prayed every day at dawn wasn't long. It wasn't complex, but it was powerful. It was directed. It was the difference between a life of superficial faith and a life that literally carried the marks of Christ in the body itself. And millions of people around the world in 2025 still practice this same prayer. Still follow the example that Padre Pío left. Still seek the protection, the strength, the spiritual clarity he demonstrated to be possible. Now let's reveal the 3 critical mistakes you need to avoid. First mistake, praying at the wrong time. Second mistake, praying without proper spiritual preparation. Third mistake, praying without understanding the intention behind each word. Padre Pío never made these mistakes, and that's why his prayer generated miracles while so many others went unanswered. He knew exactly when to pray, how to prepare, and what intention to carry in each supplication. And it's exactly this complete method you're about to discover. Not just the words of the prayer, but the complete ritual, the precise timing, the spiritual preparation, the correct intention. Everything that Padre Pío practiced for 81 years without ever missing a single day. Because knowledge without method is illusion. And you don't just want to know Padre Pío's prayer. You want to live the same protection he lived. And for that, you need the complete method. In the next chapter, I will reveal in detail the complete secret. What was the prayer that Padre Pío prayed during those sleepless nights while the world around him slept? The prayer he repeated countless times during those days of 19 hours of continuous prayer. You are about to discover. And if you've made it this far, it's because you are committed to your spiritual journey. It's because you recognize that there is something deeper, something more powerful than simply reciting empty words. You want what Padre Pío had, a direct connection with the divine, a life transformed by authentic prayer. Before revealing this sacred prayer, I need you to understand something fundamental. Padre Pío was not just an ordinary priest. He was a man who carried the stigmata of Christ in his own body. His hands bled daily with the wounds of the crucifixion. He lived in constant communion with the suffering of Jesus. And when such a man prays, when he opens his mouth to speak with God, each word carries weight. Each phrase carries spiritual authority. So what was this prayer? The prayer Padre Pío recited daily, immediately after receiving communion, was the now famous, "Stay with me, Lord." A profound, intense invocation filled with supplication and absolute trust. He prayed it without fail, making it an inseparable part of his spiritual routine. The prayer begins like this: "Stay with me, Lord, because it is necessary to have you present so that I do not forget you." Right from the opening, Padre Pío establishes the foundation of everything, the constant presence of God, not an occasional presence, not an infrequent visit, but a permanent, necessary, vital presence. And he continues asking for strength. "Stay with me, Lord, because I am weak and I need your strength so I do not fall." Padre Pío, the man who endured unbearable pain, who carried open wounds for 50 years, acknowledged his weakness. He knew that without God, without this divine strength, he would fall. And if Padre Pío recognized his fragility, how much more should we recognize ours? The prayer continues with requests for light, for fervor, for protection. "Stay with me, Lord, so that I may never leave you alone." Do you notice the reversal? It's not just Padre Pío who needs God. It's God who, in some mysterious way, also wants to be with us. This spiritual reciprocity, this profound intimacy, is what transforms prayer from mere repetition into true dialogue. And the closing of the prayer is of moving and urgent beauty. It is already late, and the day is drawing to an end. Life passes. Death, judgment, and eternity are approaching. Padre Pío prayed this prayer with full awareness of the brevity of life. He knew that each day could be the last, and therefore each prayer had a unique intensity. This was the central prayer that Padre Pío recited daily. But he didn't stop there. He also prayed the Lauds, part of the divine office, every morning. And daily, without fail, he recited the Novena to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, written by St. Alphonsus Liguori. This novena was his spiritual weapon for all intentions, all requests, all needs that came to him. Now let's reveal the definitive proof that this works. You might be thinking, this is beautiful, but does it really work? Padre Pío was a saint. I'm just an ordinary person. And this is exactly where the story becomes even more impactful. Because Padre Pío's prayer was not just beautiful words, it was manifest power. It was visible miracle. During World War II, amid American bombing campaigns across Italy, an inexplicable event unfolded. The pilots were set to attack San Giovanni Rotondo, Padre Pío's hometown. Bombs were primed, targets locked. But as the aircraft approached, something impossible occurred. A friar in a brown habit materialized in the sky directly before the warplanes. His hands raised in an arresting gesture, seemingly blocking the impending attack. The pilots, terrified, could not release the bombs. They returned to base in panic, reporting the impossible. Imagine you being one of those pilots, war veteran, trained for impossible missions. And suddenly, at 10,000 feet altitude, you see a human figure floating in the air with bleeding hands. You don't believe in miracles, but your eyes are seeing. Your co-pilot is seeing, the entire squadron is seeing, and you cannot press the bomb release button, as if an invisible force prevented your fingers from moving. Later, when some of these pilots visited San Giovanni Rotondo after the war, they immediately recognized who that friar was, Padre Pío. He was in two places at the same time, physically in the city and spiritually in the sky, protecting his people. This phenomenon is known as bilocation, a mystical occurrence repeatedly documented throughout Padre Pío's life. He was far more than a priest confined to a convent. He was manifesting divine power in ways that utterly transcend human comprehension. And the miracles didn't stop there. More than 1,000 healing miracles were documented during Padre Pío's lifetime. 1,000. They are not rumors. They are not exaggerations. They are verified, witnessed, recorded cases. The Vatican confirmed several of these miracles during the beatification and canonization processes. But here's what many don't know. The miracles didn't stop when Padre Pío died in 1968. In 2025, almost 60 years after his death, the miracles continue. People around the world still receive healings, protections, supernatural interventions through Padre Pío's intercession. Now let's look at the contemporary facts that prove this. By the numbers, by current data, in 2025, 2 million pilgrims annually visit Pietrelcina and San Giovanni Rotondo, the cities that defined Padre Pío's life journey. 2 million. These aren't mere tourists, but devoted pilgrims, people yearning for miracles, entire families seeking the profound spiritual connection that Padre Pío embodied. And many of these pilgrims report transformative experiences, like Michael, a 42-year-old man from New York, who traveled to Italy in 2023 after losing his job and facing a devastating family crisis. "I didn't believe in anything anymore," he says. "But when I entered the sanctuary and knelt before Padre Pío's tomb, I felt something I had never felt before, an inexplicable peace. And 3 months later, everything in my life began to reorganize itself. I got a better job, my family reconciled, and I finally understood it wasn't coincidence. It was an answer to the prayer I started saying daily after that visit." The Sanctuary of St. Pio is one of the largest Catholic pilgrimage destinations in the world. And in September 2025, from the 16th to the 26th, a special pilgrimage will take place for the Holy Year. Thousands of people from various countries will gather to honor this saint and seek his intercession. But there's more. In October 2025, between the 11th and 14th, something unprecedented will happen. The complete original habit worn by Padre Pío, preserved in Italy, will leave the country for the first time in history. It will be taken to the United States, specifically to the National Center for Padre Pío in Pennsylvania, where thousands of faithful will be able to venerate it. Think about that, a habit, a piece of clothing. But not just any clothing, The clothing that touched the wounds of the stigmata. The clothing that absorbed Christ's blood manifested in a man. And in 2025, this relic is going on an international tour. Why? Because devotion to Padre Pío isn't diminishing, it's growing. And there's something even more fascinating. Since the pandemic, there's been a massive increase in digital devotion to Padre Pío. Millions of people around the world now practice his prayers daily through online platforms. The prayer, "Stay with me, Lord," is recited in virtual prayer groups. The Novena to the Sacred Heart of Jesus is shared in messaging apps. Padre Pío's spiritual power is reaching more people now than at any other time in history. When I assert that Padre Pío's prayer works, this isn't mere blind faith. It's substantiated by historical evidence, a contemporary phenomenon, a spiritual reality proven through millions of transformed lives spanning decades. But now let's reveal the most common mistake. Most people who discover this prayer make a fatal error in the first 3 days, a mistake so common that it explains why millions pray without seeing results. You can memorize every word of "Stay with me, Lord." You can recite the Novena to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. You can even learn the Lauds of the Divine Office. But if you don't know how to practice them daily, if you don't have a specific method, a clear structure, you won't experience the same power that Padre Pío experienced. Because here's the thing, Padre Pío didn't pray just any way. He had a routine. He had a ritual. He had specific times, specific postures, specific intentions. And that's exactly what transformed his prayers from simple words into channels of divine power. This is precisely where most people stumble. They mistakenly believe that merely repeating words is sufficient, that recitation alone completes the practice. But that's fundamentally incorrect. There is a precise method to integrate these prayers into your daily life, a deliberate approach that amplifies the spiritual potency of each word, each petition, each sacred moment of divine communion. Now I'm going to reveal the complete step-by-step method. I'm going to show you exactly how you should start your morning, which prayer to say first, at what time of day to recite the Novena, how to create a spiritual environment in your home that multiplies the effectiveness of each supplication. Because prayer works. The evidence is there. 2 million pilgrims aren't wrong. 1,000 documented miracles aren't coincidence. An international relic tour in 2025 doesn't happen by chance. But for you to experience this same power, for you to live the same spiritual transformation that Padre Pío lived and that millions continue to live today, you need the next step. You need the complete daily practice, the morning ritual that opens the gates of heaven. And that's exactly what comes next. You know the prayer. You understand why Padre Pío depended on it daily. But now comes the most important part. How to transform this prayer into a daily practice that activates miracles in your life. Here's the unspoken truth. Millions worldwide recite the identical words that Padre Pío prayed, yet only a tiny fraction experiences transformative results. The reason? There's a profound distinction between mechanically repeating words and authentically practicing a spiritual ritual. I'm about to unveil this critical difference, the comprehensive method that distinguishes those who encounter divine protection from those perpetually entangled in spiritual struggle. This is what Padre Pío taught us during 50 years of stigmata, miracles, and continuous intercession. Let me show you exactly how you implement this prayer in your routine, following the same steps that Padre Pío practiced until the last day of his earthly life. First step, morning preparation. And this happens in the first 5 minutes of your day. The moment you open your eyes, even before picking up your phone, before checking messages, you invoke your guardian angel. Padre Pío did this every day without exception. He would say, "My guardian angel, guide me this day." And then you establish your intention. "Lord, I dedicate this day to you." Next, you create your sacred space. It doesn't need to be elaborate. It can be a quiet corner of the house, a chair by the window, a place where you can have 3 minutes of silence. A candle is optional, but many devotees light a candle to symbolize the divine presence. What matters is creating this ritual of separation between the mundane and the sacred. Second step, the divine office, specifically Lauds. Now this is optional for lay people, but it was a daily obligation for Padre Pío as a Capuchin. He prayed Lauds every morning without fail. For you, there's a simplified version, Psalm 63. O God, you are my God, I seek you earnestly. This psalm perfectly captures the spirit of morning Lauds, and in 2025 you have modern resources. The Padre Pío Foundation offers apps and websites with the complete text of Lauds. Just search for Lauds Padre Pío Foundation and you'll find everything translated and formatted. Third step, and here's the core. The prayer, Stay with me, Lord. You recite the entire prayer, slowly, meditatively. Don't rush. Don't turn this into a mechanical obligation. Focus on each petition. When you say, Stay with me, Lord, because I am weak and need your strength, you truly reflect on your fragility. When you ask, Stay with me, Lord, so that I may hear you and obey you, you open your heart to divine guidance. Padre Pío prayed this prayer after communion during Mass, but it's perfectly adaptable to your morning routine. What matters is not the exact moment, but the consistency and sincerity. You have the complete text, the opening that establishes the divine presence, the petitions that cover strength, protection, and guidance, and the closing that unites your earthly life with eschatological hope. Fourth step, the Novena to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Padre Pío recited this novena every day for all the prayer requests he received. All of them. He received thousands of letters monthly, and he offered each intention through this novena. The prayer was written by Saint Alphonsus Liguori, Doctor of the Church, and Padre Pío considered it essential for his daily intercession. You do the same. You offer your personal intentions through this novena, your needs, your concerns, your requests for miracles, and in doing so, you unite yourself with Padre Pío in his daily practice of intercession. You're not just praying alone. You're praying in communion with a canonized saint who dedicated 50 years to continuous intercession. Fifth step, the daily commitment seal. You close your morning practice with a personal commitment. I will do this daily. Not tomorrow, not when you have time, daily. And then you invoke Padre Pío's intercession. Padre Pío, pray for me. And here's what most people don't understand. You need to create accountability structure. Set a digital reminder on your calendar. Use a habit tracking app. Ask a trusted friend to help you stay accountable. Remember, the greatest obstacle to spiritual growth isn't doubt, it's inconsistency. Now, why does daily practice matter so much? Because Padre Pío showed us for 50 years that consistency generates power. It wasn't a single prayer that sustained the stigmata. It wasn't an isolated moment of devotion that manifested thousands of miracles. It was the daily, repeated, consistent practice over decades. Think of spiritual life as building a cathedral. You don't raise stone walls in a day. You lay brick upon brick day after day, year after year. And one day, you look up and see towers touching the sky. That's the power of consistency. Consistency creates spiritual power. It's not a one-time prayer. It's a daily relationship with the divine. In 2025, the evidence is clear. Millions worldwide embrace daily spiritual practices through prayer groups, online communities, and dedicated spirituality apps. Daily devotion works by building spiritual resilience, creating a ritual that establishes a continuous pattern of divine connection renewed with each new day. And think about it, each day is a renewed opportunity for protection and divine favor. Every morning you do this practice, you're activating the same mechanism of existential relief that Padre Pío accessed for 50 years. It's not superstition. It's spiritual structure proven by documented miracles and official canonization. And you're not alone on this journey. 2 million pilgrims visit San Giovanni Rotondo every year. 2 million people seeking the same protection, the same miracles, the same intercession you're seeking now. In September 2025, the Holy Year Tour happens, from September 16 to 26. In October, the U.S. Relic Tour. From October 11 to 14, devotion to Padre Pío is more alive today than ever. Active organizations are dedicated to preserving this devotion, such as the Padre Pío Foundation of America and the National Center in Pennsylvania. Digital resources abound: online prayer groups, apps, and daily devotionals. You're not stepping into something obscure or marginal. Instead, you're joining millions of devotees in a global spiritual community. This is the profound power of spiritual community. When you begin the daily practice, you're not merely praying alone at home. You're connecting with millions of people worldwide, united in the same ritual day after day. This collective energy, this shared devotion, exponentially amplifies the potency of individual prayer. So here's what you need to do. Tomorrow morning, you start with step 1. Invoke your guardian angel in the first 5 minutes of the day. Establish your intention. Create your sacred space. And follow the 5 steps I just detailed. And if you're committed to this daily practice, if you understand that consistency is the key, leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you're making the commitment to practice daily. Because that public commitment, that declaration of intention, increases your accountability. But most importantly, do this daily. Don't skip days. Don't wait to feel like it. Don't depend on emotional motivation. Make this a non-negotiable habit, the same way you brush your teeth or have breakfast. Consistency is the key. Without consistency, you only have theoretical knowledge. With consistency, you have real transformation. And that's exactly what you came here looking for. You wanted to discover the prayer that sustained 50 years of miracles. You wanted to understand the complete method that Padre Pío practiced without missing a single day. And now you have it. The prayer, "Stay with me, Lord." The Novena to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. The Lauds, the complete morning ritual. The 5 practical steps. Everything is here. If you're ready to start this practice tomorrow, comment, "I commit now." This act of declaration transforms intention into commitment. Padre Pío lived 81 years of daily commitment. You're starting yours. And if you know someone who needs this spiritual protection, someone seeking powerful intercession, share this video. You can be the instrument that brings this transformative devotion into another person's life. And remember, Padre Pío prayed for you before you were even born. He offered decades of intercession for people he would never meet personally. He bore the stigmata, endured the pain, lived in continuous prayer so that you, decades later, could access the power of his intercession. You came looking for the secret prayer. You discovered, "Stay with me, Lord." You wanted to understand the method. You received the 5 steps of the morning ritual. You questioned why Padre Pío's prayers generated miracles while so many others went unanswered. Now you know it was consistency. It was discipline. It was 19 hours daily of prayer sustained by this morning practice that he never abandoned. Now it's your turn. Start tomorrow with step 1. Invoke your guardian angel in the first 5 minutes of the day. Follow the 5 steps. Do this daily, because the miracles aren't confined to Padre Pío's history. They continue unfolding today in 2025. For those who practice with the same faith, consistency, and commitment that he demonstrated over his 81 years. Padre Pío, pray for us. Amen.